Hello ladies and gents, I'm Varian Vibes, and today I'm going to be ranking every Call of Duty that was released in the 2010s decade from worst to best. This includes everything from Black Ops 1 to Modern Warfare, but not Modern Warfare Remastered because it's not an original game. I'm sorry, this is my list and that's what I decided. I'm also ranking these CODs on its overall composition, which is to say I'm taking into account every mode within the game, rating the mode on a scale from good to bad, and then comparing the games based on the overall rating of the modes. Of course, the words good and bad are super subjective, so this isn't going to be the most objective list you'll ever see. You'd probably have a different list, and I encourage you to defend or criticize these games and compile your own list in the comments below. But without further ado, let's get into the ranking. In the number 10 spot, we have Call of Duty Ghosts. Right, so this is the only game on this list I don't have gameplay for because apparently I have to pay more than $50 for a game I already bought on the 360. The campaign is very forgettable and it feels like it doesn't have consequences. There's a mission where you get shot and then walk it off for the rest of it, and everyone remembers the end where the bad guy and Hesh survive a gunshot and a train crash. In addition, the story is about brotherhood, but your character doesn't talk, so it doesn't really help in getting invested in the story. But moving on, the multiplayer was obnoxiously boring with ridiculously big maps. You could also get a KEM or a nuke by completing simple tasks, which was unfair. There's no colors in the maps except gray, and I wasn't a fan of the progression where you only had to start a new character and not reset. It was like I had no incentive to keep playing. Finally, Extinction wasn't replayable. I only found some fun in trying to beat the linear mission, but afterwards it just kept playing the exact same, so I got bored of it. In the end, we have a bad campaign, bad multiplayer, and a bad execution at a new game mode, and that's why it comes in at number 10. In the number 9 spot, we have Call of Duty World War II. The campaign here was a generic war story that only focused on the American side of the war, which was a shame because there was a lot more story that they could have told. The missions weren't a chore to get through though, and there were some memorable missions like the one where you had to plant bombs at a facility and also had to remember details about your fake identity, which was a really cool touch. I also thought that the return of health packs and the way you interacted with other soldiers was cool. Multiplayer wasn't very fun in this game. The social space was alright, but there wasn't much reason to go there after they gave you the reason to bypass it, or the option to anyways. The maps played basically all the same until they added DLC, and the supply drops were mostly filled with useless loot like grips, which you can't actually see. The zombies is also weird for me. It holds a special place in my memory and heart because of some of the videos that I made back then, but I have no desire to go and play those maps now. I like the idea of specialist abilities and the extra perks that enhance those abilities, but even then the abundance of mid-tier bosses was overbearing and unfun at times. I also think that the zombies handle Jug better than Black Ops 4, but again, the vast array of enemies made this version of zombies difficult, making it a bad zombies experience, especially solo. Overall, this game had an okay campaign, bad multiplayer, and bad zombies experience, so it comes in at number 9. Next, in the number 8 spot, we have Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Honestly, these next 3 spots were the hardest for me to rank, which is odd, because usually the top is the hardest to rank, but this game had a bad multiplayer. I heard a rumor multiple times that the multiplayer that we got wasn't the original plan, which would actually make a lot of sense, because a lot of it just felt recycled and rushed. There were numerous recycled Black Ops maps, which didn't really work here because the mechanics were different. There were recycled specialists from Black Ops 3, and maybe even some of the guns were recycled. Like the KN just looks really similar to Black Ops 3. This multiplayer just felt like a bunch of elements from different games. Black Ops 4 also tried to replace the campaign with a battle royale to try and get on that some of that Fortnite hype, and it was an okay execution. It was obvious that the majority of the devs' efforts went into this game mode because it played pretty well after the initial phase of insane glitches, and I only really stopped playing it because I was getting bored of the battle royale genre. I mostly had a lot of fun unlocking the zombies characters and also playing around with the zombies features, and finally the zombies mode was unfortunately disappointing. You didn't get nearly enough Nibelian plasma for elixirs, and some of the maps at the beginning and the end of the game cycle felt unfinished. However, some of the middle maps are fun as hell, but would have been much better in the Black Ops 3 engine. Overall, this game had a bad multiplayer, okay zombies, and an okay battle royale, so it comes in at number 8. In our number 7 spot, we have Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I don't think that this game is objectively as bad as people say it is. I think that the majority of people just directed hate at this game as a result of being worn out. People were worn out of the futuristic movement and of getting a new zombies experience every single year. However, I think that they're just both mediocre. I personally don't like the zombies too much, but I can see the appeal. When Raven the Redwoods came out, I watched a lot of videos on it because it was fun to watch. I also really like the boss fight option that this zombies mode has, because it's something we've never really seen before, and it's just fun to go into these boss fights if you just want to do that instead of doing the whole Easter egg before it. The multiplayer was fun for me because of the modes that they brought back, like All or Nothing. I mean, why isn't this game mode in other games? It is so much fun. Anyway, the way you unlocked variants for games was fairly balanced, and the futuristic movement was smooth. Finally, the campaign was beautiful with, yet again, a generic story. It also had too many of the ship missions, but other than that, the missions were just okay. With 3 mediocre game modes, Infinite Warfare comes in at number 7. In our number 6 spot, we have Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. This might be yet another surprise pick for some, but it's the first game on this list to have 4 modes. Not at launch, obviously, but it still had more content than others when all was said and done. I think that this game is highly underappreciated, especially in zombies and multiplayer. Exo Zombies took some risks by changing the movement mechanics and doing other little things differently that I don't think got enough credit. Grenades and explosives actually did something, they had cool new power-ups, and they had some genuinely fun maps and Easter egg steps. They had some missteps, like with the pack-a-punch system, the ridiculous amount of objectives, and all of Burger Town, but overall this is a far better experience than people make it out to be. Exo Survival wasn't innovative, but it was a fun co-op mode. Multiplayer, on the other hand, was daring, and while I was in the same mindset of people when they were tired of the futuristic movement, I look back at this multiplayer with fondness and respect. No other Call of Duty has attempted to change the core mechanics of the game this much. Yeah, everything about supply drops can right off, but there were some defining features such as the Pick 13 system and some cool new game modes like Uplink and the Grapple playlist. Finally, the campaign in this game is one of the most immersive with the way that they presented the HUD. I remember hearing that they wanted this experience to feel like a movie, and I think that they achieved that for the most part. Sure, the story was generic and forgettable, but the exosuits provided a fun single-player experience. Overall, this game had 4 mediocre game modes that I don't think got enough love, so it comes in at number 6. In our number 5 spot, we have Call of Duty Black Ops 3. I think that this game deserves to be in the middle of the list because it did some things amazingly and some very horribly. This is undeniably the best zombies experience with some of the most memorable maps, Easter eggs, and arguably the best story. Gobblegums was a weird addition at first, but they made sure to turn up the difficulty a bit with boss fights, mid-tier bosses, and the speed of zombies, so it turned out to be a great mechanic. Even if it is a bit easier, I'd argue that's what makes it a lot more fun in a lot of aspects. I personally also love that they finally allowed us to progress in some sort of way in zombies, because I felt like I had something to show for my large amount of time poured into the game. Multiplayer was alright. I personally only kept playing because of their addition of Dark Matter camo. It was fun to pursue. The addition of Specialist was really cool to see, and I think that this is one of the most balanced games as far as guns go. However, this was the most aggressive supply drop system, which still puts a bitter taste in my mouth because it did take away from the experience. Finally, the campaign was hot garbage. It had some cool concepts like DNI, but I think they made it way too confusing in execution. I was constantly wondering what I was doing, and it just wasn't fun to play. Overall, this game had a good zombies experience, okay multiplayer, and bad campaign, so it comes in at number 5. In the number 4 spot, we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. I think that most people's biggest gripe with this game is that it's too similar to Modern Warfare 2. I'm not sure how that's a bad thing, since most people can't really say enough good things about that game, but the campaign was a memorable end to the trilogy. I mean, who can forget the Eiffel Tower being broken in half, Soap's death, and Makarov's brutal big oof. It's also fun to play through, which should be commended. The multiplayer has some innovations that definitely didn't get enough love. Having the ability to run either assault or support kill streaks, and introducing the specialist perk system, which they finally brought back in Modern Warfare, just added another layer of customization. This was also the first and best attempt at Affected, and had other cool game modes like Drop Zone and All or Nothing. Yeah, it's similar to Modern Warfare 2, but that game's not on this list, and it's a more balanced version. Also, they built on special ops and added so many fun missions that had a cool addition to the campaign. Also, survival is very fun. It's basically zombies but with humans instead, and different tiers of difficulty with different multiplayer maps. Overall, this game had a good campaign, good multiplayer, and okay co-op modes, so it comes in at number 4. In the number 3 spot, we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Yeah, this game is pretty damn good. The campaign is gorgeous and it has some really cool missions. I'm a sucker for stealth missions, so ones like Clean House and the one where you have to search for Hadir, I think that's what his name is. Those are my favorites, but there are other memorable ones like where you have to murder everyone as a kid and where you escape a prison. Overall, the story had some pretty cool storytelling. The multiplayer is enjoyable as well. It comes across as a little chaotic at times, but the return to old customization was on point and the new gun customization is awesome. 2v2 in particular is so much fun, and Ground War is also chaotic but a good addition to Call of Duty. The Spec Ops leaves a lot to be desired though. I don't think that the longer missions work, and survival isn't on Xbox or PC, which is stupid. Finally, Warzone is pretty fun. It's a pretty well balanced battle royale with amazing innovation of the Gulag. It also feels really rewarding when you win. So overall, this game had a good campaign, good multiplayer and battle royale, but a bad Spec Ops mode, so it comes in at number 3. Coming in the number 2 spot is Call of Duty Black Ops. Look, these last 2 spots were really hard to rank, and I kept going back and forth, but this is definitely the right choice. This game has become iconic a decade later with good reason. The campaign took place in a new time period for Call of Duty, and the storytelling was amazing. The reveal where Reznov was never there and you were him the whole time was so genius because they did put little hints throughout the whole story. It also introduced iconic characters like Woods and Mason that would continue the story later, and some iconic missions like the escape from Rakuta. The multiplayer was lots of fun as well. It had iconic maps like Summit and Firing Range and had a good unlocking currency that you could play wager matches for. I mean, One in the Chamber, Gun Game, and Sharpshooter are some of the most fun games ever conceived in a game. The guns were also fairly balanced, and there was also theater mode and a community tab, which I encourage you to go and look at if you're bored, which you probably are, because there's some funny stuff on there. And finally, the zombies. This Zombies did so much for the game mode. It started a story that would take a few more games to complete, and also had some of the most iconic maps ever. I'd argue that this game doesn't have a horrible map or Easter egg. Speaking of those, the main Easter egg started in this game and became a staple from then on, and it introduced 4 new perks and had Dead Ops Arcade. The only negative to these maps that I can think of is that they can be a bit chaotic since they were still under the direction of Jimmy Zielinski. Overall, this game had 3 good game modes, and so it comes in at number 2. And finally, at number 1 is Call of Duty Black Ops 2. This campaign also had remarkable storytelling. Menendez is one of the most memorable villains in a COD story, right up there with Makarov and Shepard. This is also the most replayable campaign since it has multiple endings based on your decisions on certain missions, which is awesome. I mean, why haven't other CODs done this? It was just a good expansion from the last campaign with old characters that we loved and some compelling new ones. The multiplayer is the most balanced by far. Every gun class was viable in this experience, which is hard to do. The maps were colorful and memorable and just the right size. The pick 10 system and score streaks were great innovations. The kill streaks were amazing. It introduced the diamond camo where you had to master a whole class of weapon. All the wagers matches made a return, and it had a theater mode as well. This Zombies also kept telling the Aether story, but mostly through characters that we didn't know, which was a great bridge between Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 3. It also made important contributions like buildables, 4 new perks, and the Wonder Fizz. Easter eggs were mostly fun and had 2 to do on some maps, which was a challenge. The Super Easter egg also gave us a reason to play all the Victus maps, and most of the maps were great. This map contains most people's favorite map, be that Origins, the correct answer, or Mob of the Dead. Overall, this game had 3 amazing game modes. The campaign is better than Black Ops 1 because of the multiple endings, and the multiplayer and zombies made great innovations. It is truly the best Call of Duty of the 2010s decade. But what did you think? Let me know of your list and how wrong I am down in the comments. Don't forget to like if you enjoyed and subscribe for more content. Thank you for watching this far. I appreciate the hell out of you. I'm Varian Vibes, and I'll see you soon.